Welcome to my channel where concealed narratives and unspoken journeys from the realm of crossdressing emerge into the spotlight. Remember to like, subscribe, and activate that notification bell so you stay connected to every single moment. The quiet in our family room felt heavy enough to suffocate. I sat collapsed on the couch, my fists clenched tightly in my lap, my gaze locked onto a random tiny particle of dust on the wooden flooring, anywhere except at her. I simply could not meet her eyes. My mom, Sarah, stood in front of me like a stern authority figure. She gripped her phone firmly in one hand, the same device she had just finished using for an extended, hushed discussion with the principal at my school. The atmosphere crackled with strain, pressing heavily on my shoulders and making breathing difficult. When she finally broke the silence, her tone stayed low and measured. Every syllable landed like a carefully positioned brick constructing a barrier around my offenses. "Let's go over this, Josh," she began. "The remarks you made about Madison's figure in the corridor, loud enough that nearly half the 10th grade students overheard. The unintentional brushes against her shoulder and back, even as she visibly pulled away. The gossip you and your buddies spread, depicting her in ways she never was, just to get a quick chuckle." I shifted my feet nervously, the noise echoing sharply in the stifling stillness. "We were only messing around," I muttered, the statement feeling dry and worthless in my mouth. It was a feeble justification, and I recognized its weakness, yet it remained my only option. "That was the last limit," she replied. I noticed a slight change in her posture, a subtle tightening that signaled I had gone too far to retreat. "Messing around," she echoed, her words cutting like shards. She started walking back and forth, her movements steady and intentional. "I have attempted every approach, Josh. Every single one. I've restricted your outings. I've confiscated your phone. I've forbidden contact with those pals of yours who treat disrespect toward women like some kind of contest. And absolutely nothing has made any difference. Do you honestly believe it shows strength? Reducing a girl to feeling insignificant and valueless." I remained mute, my poor excuse having vanished completely. She halted her pacing and positioned herself directly before me once more. I wondered to myself what it would require. What would finally help you grasp the reality? She paused, then retrieved a sizable, shiny pink carrier bag from behind her back. My forehead creased in bewilderment for a brief instant. A strange and completely mistaken idea crossed my thoughts. Could this be some oddly timed present? My puzzlement swiftly transformed into freezing terror as she delved into the bag. It held no video game or fresh athletic footwear. Instead, she extracted a garment. It was a gentle light blue outfit adorned with a design of small, dainty white blossoms. The material appeared lightweight and breezy, seeming to drift softly in the space separating us. "This," she declared, "is your consequence. Starting immediately, every day upon returning from classes, you will remove your Josh attire. You will don garments similar to this one. You will apply cosmetics. You will master the movements, speech, and daily existence of a young woman inside this home until I determine that you have truly comprehended the perspective." A burst of laughter slipped from my lips, a brief, abrupt sound of incredulity. "You're joking, aren't you? This is completely mad." Her demeanor stayed unchanged. Her features formed an expression of icy determination, yet I detected deep sorrow swimming in her gaze, which intensified the fear. "I have never," she stated deliberately, "been more earnest in my whole existence." I sprang up from the sofa, my survival instincts urging me to flee. "No," I refused to participate in this. I attempted to shove by her, aiming for my bedroom or any other escape. She obstructed my route, standing as solid as a monument. "You face two options, Josh. First, you accept this. You adhere to my guidelines and remain under my roof. Or second," she inhaled deeply, "you can gather your belongings and depart. At 17, you consider yourself mature enough to act like a man, so you can discover how that works out in reality. The decision belongs to you. But you will not import that harmful attitude or that lack of respect into my household for even one additional day." The absolute tone in her statement struck me like a solid impact. She was sincere. She would truly force me out. I searched her eyes and recognized not only rage, but also a profound, heartfelt grief. This pained her equally, and that realization confirmed it was no empty threat. Defeated, I sank back onto the couch, all resistance fading away, leaving only an empty feeling of inevitable fate. That evening, rest remained unreachable. I stayed awake for hours, staring at the seat in the corner of my bedroom. She had arranged the complete set of items there, a mute symbol of my upcoming existence. Each article of clothing resembled another bar forming a prison around me. The outfit with its pure floral design appeared to taunt me. Underneath lay a matching set of intimate wear, a soft rosy bra and coordinating undergarments, both edged with fine, nearly see-through trim. Next to them rested knee-length white stockings, their upper edges decorated with a playful frill, and at the base of the chair sat black shiny leather strap shoes with a modest 1-inch lift that seemed both awkward and ominous. Every article served as a judgment. Every decorative edge and bit of trim acted as another fastener sealing away my former self. The following morning brought a gentle tap on my door, followed by my mother's steady voice. "Julie, it's time to rise. We face a full day." The title sent an electric shock through my body. Foreign and incorrect. "You must adjust to it," she added, as though sensing my inner reaction through the barrier. "From this point forward, within these walls, you are Julie." I hauled myself from the bed and positioned myself in front of the looking glass, absorbing what felt like one last view. There stood Josh with unkempt locks, loose shirt, and faded trousers. This marked the final sighting of him for an extended period. My mother's voice sounded again through the door, firm and clear. "Get changed, Julie, and keep in mind, girls avoid boxer shorts beneath their garments." A chill traveled down my back. The judgment had commenced. I secured my bedroom entrance, a meaningless act of rebellion. My pulse raced wildly against my chest like a confined creature. On the seat, the garments awaited. My fingers quivered as I grasped the intimate items. The texture of the undergarments delivered the initial surprise. It felt remarkably delicate, a slick, refreshing lace that offered none of the comforting softness from my usual briefs. Sliding them into place taught a lesson in exposure. The narrow band of cloth provided minimal protection, no reassuring bulk. The trim embraced my form, adhering to contours I had never noticed, leaving me feeling entirely bare. The bra followed. It was a basic unpadded lace style, yet it might as well have been an ancient torment instrument. The shoulder bands confused me, and the rear closures presented an unsolvable riddle. I twisted and struggled, my limbs bending into odd positions, my irritation growing with each unsuccessful try. After what seemed like 10 full minutes of clumsy effort, my cheeks burned with embarrassment and strain. I heard my mother call from beyond the door. "Julie, do you require assistance inside there?" The inquiry drove a sharp wave of mortification through me. "I've managed," I snapped back, my tone tense. I refused to grant her that victory. At last, with one final frantic adjustment, the small fasteners connected. Immediate relief gave way to a novel odd feeling. The slim bands pressed lightly into my shoulders, and the circumference around my torso created a steady, mild hold. It caused no hurt, but its presence remained constant, an ongoing tangible signal of the item I now wore, a restraint labeling me as something different. The stockings came afterward as I drew them along my limbs. I remained sharply conscious of the unusual sleekness of my skin. My mother had required me to remove hair from my legs the previous evening. Another layer of torment involving scraped areas, stinging cuts, and a deep sense of ridiculousness. The smooth material of the stockings slid easily over my now bare lower legs, a feeling wholly unfamiliar. The decorative frill settled right beneath my knee, a distinctly feminine accent that made my strong limbs appear odd and misplaced. Then came the garment itself. Lifting it from its hanger surprised me with its lack of heaviness. In contrast to the dense material of my usual pants, it resembled grasping a puff of air. As I drew it downward over my head, the cloth expanded around me. It avoided restricting me like my regular outfits. It moved freely, yet that very airiness also sparked worry. It seemed delicate and insubstantial. I pictured even a light wind raising it and revealing everything. I caught myself repeatedly adjusting the lower edge, attempting to draw it lower, despite it already reaching well below my knees. Finally, the footwear. The 1-inch elevation on the Mary Janes felt enormous. I inserted my feet and secured the slender band across the top. Upon standing, I swayed unsteadily. My whole balance shifted. I needed to spread my stance wider simply to remain steady, compelling me into a position that felt strange and forced. Just as I adjusted to the unsteady sensation of the shoes, my mother rapped and stepped inside without awaiting permission. She carried a sizable makeup kit, which she set on my table with a quiet sound. "Today I will handle your cosmetics," she stated, her manner practical. "Beginning tomorrow, you will manage it independently." I sat motionless in my chair as she proceeded. The initial step involved base cream. She dispensed a cool portion of liquid onto a pad, and the feeling of it being smoothed over my features marked the first stage in removing Josh. The refreshing lotion covered my skin, concealing every flaw and opening, forming an even, empty surface. It served as a covering. "You possess nice skin," she observed, her voice neutral. "That will simplify things for Julie somewhat." She progressed to my eyes, choosing a selection of gentle peach-toned shades. "Shut your eyes," she directed. I complied, sensing the delicate, tingling stroke of the tool across my lids. It created an oddly personal sensation, and I struggled against the impulse to pull away. Next arrived the liner, a slim, dark implement she traced precisely along my upper lashes, extending it into a small flare at the edge. The pointed tip against the sensitive area near my eye felt alarming. I held my breath, frightened I might twitch and cause an error. Then followed the thickening agent. "Gaze downward now. Avoid excessive blinking," she guided, brushing the applicator through my lashes and coating them with dense, dark fluid. My lashes suddenly felt weighted, and every blink required deliberate effort, a constant reminder of the artificial enhancement being added to my appearance. The concluding element was lip color, a realistic shiny rose shade. "Bring your lips together," she instructed. The smooth, waxy feel seemed unfamiliar, and a pleasant floral aroma filled my senses. Upon completion, she offered no comment. She merely rotated my seat to confront the tall mirror attached to my storage closet door. And I drew in a sharp breath. Josh had vanished, entirely and thoroughly erased. Returning my stare was an unfamiliar person, a young woman. She appeared around my age, perhaps 17, with features disturbingly recognizable yet wholly strange. My hair, typically a disordered mess, had been smoothed and secured on one side with a small blossom accessory. The cosmetics had gentled my traits, enlarging my eyes and making them more vivid, plumping my lips and tinting them rosier. My chin outline, once a source of confidence, appeared softer and more refined somehow. And then the garment. The light blue cloth formed an outline that no longer belonged to me. It belonged to a girl called Julie. "Hello, Julie," my mother murmured from behind. Her speech remained composed, but in her mirrored image I spotted the shine of held-back tears. Julie, could not utter a sound. I could not shift my focus from the reflection.
It was not me.
Yet the more I observed, a dreadful realization began to emerge. It was not entirely not me. It represented a side of me I had never suspected existed, a potential buried so far inside I could never have conceived it. And I found myself confined within her. My mother's following statement broke the spell. "Now comes the following stage of your instruction. Julie will complete a 15-minute stroll around the neighborhood." Terror gripped me, cold and total.
"What?"
"No, have you lost your mind? This cannot be discussed. This is not open for debate," she responded, her voice regaining its unyielding strength. "This forms the central purpose. You must experience it. You must sense the attention directed at you." I shook as she guided me toward the main entrance. Every part of me longed to dash away, to barricade myself inside my space and rip away these items, but one glance at her expression revealed no escape existed. She swung open the door. The afternoon sunlight dazzled. It rendered the fine cloth of the garment nearly transparent, and I folded my arms across my front in a futile effort to conceal myself. My initial steps along the walkway proved awkward and hesitant, the small lifts on the shoes producing clumsy clicks. I had advanced only a few residences when the first vehicle passed. The driver, likely in his 40s, reduced speed, his gaze traveling over me from top to bottom. He offered a slow, approving grin that twisted my insides. A flush rose along my neck, a burning surge of embarrassment and resentment. I yearned to shout at him, but I stayed paralyzed. I was Julie, and Julie merely averted her eyes. Farther along the street, an older lady out with her petite dog offered a courteous nod. "That's a charming garment, dear," she remarked warmly. I returned a faint, strained smile. The straightforward praise registered like validation of this terrifying new persona. The most difficult instant occurred near the little cafe at the intersection. A cluster of young men, perhaps a year or two my senior, occupied an outdoor seating area. I noticed their heads pivot as I neared. One emitted a soft whistle. "Hey, you look nice," another shouted. His companion nudged him. "Dude, stop bothering her." But the first simply smirked, his stare locked on me. I sensed my face ignite in a fierce, aching crimson. I attempted to quicken my pace to escape their looks, but the foolish shoes caused me to teeter, heightening my sense of foolishness and visibility. In that instant, I ceased being an individual strolling publicly. I became an item, an object for their observation, commentary, and assessment. Was I attractive enough? Did my form conform properly? Their gazes felt like tangible contact, probing and judging without consent. And with a nauseating, stomach-turning realization, I understood this was exactly it. This matched how Madison must have experienced every occasion when Josh and my companions had whistled or remarked on her attire. This overwhelming, powerless sensation of being diminished to merely a physique. The instruction had started, and it proved far harsher than I could ever have anticipated. The opening week resembled a conflict between opposing realities. During classes, I continued as Josh. I donned my torn pants and oversized sweatshirts like protective gear. My speech stayed intentionally gruff, my stance a rebellious slump. I fought desperately to retain the identity I had known, the one that felt secure and known. But it was a failing effort. The second the last bell sounded, the timer activated. The journey home filled with a sense of approaching catastrophe. And then the changeover, the shift from Josh to Julie, turned into a dreaded daily ceremony, stripping away the Josh protection layer by layer, only to substitute it with the fragile, binding outfit of Julie. Initially, I opposed it in my mind with all my power. This remained a disguise, a character I was compelled to portray. Yet boundaries began fading in alarming ways. Each evening while removing the cosmetics, I would examine my image and sense a peculiar feeling of absence. My face appeared faded and ordinary without the subtle hues on my cheeks. My eyes looked narrower without the border of liner and thickening agent. I started observing details I had overlooked earlier: the curve of my lashes, the natural contour of my mouth, the everyday tasks of existing as Julie shifted from a struggle into habit. Removing leg hair transitioned from a torturous process to a swift, automatic action. Spreading base cream became a fluid practice movement. I mastered performing it independently. Following the first weekend, she announced my preparation period had concluded. From then on, Julie handles her own readiness. I position myself at my table, now serving also as a dressing station, encircled by an overwhelming collection of tools, sticks, dusts, and lotions. My initial effort with the liner proved disastrous. My hand trembled so violently that I created a jagged, uneven mark that suggested injury. I had to clear it and restart 3 separate times. The thickening agent presented another challenge. I jabbed myself in the eye repeatedly, triggering streams of moisture that destroyed the base layer I had just carefully placed. But gradually, with effort, I improved. By the 10th or 20th trial, my grip steadied. I discovered small techniques. How slight shading could ease my jaw contour, how a hint of shimmer on my cheekbones could capture illumination, how to merge shades so they appeared gentle rather than exaggerated. And an unexpected development occurred. I began discovering a peaceful concentration in the procedure. The surroundings would narrow to the point of a liner tool or the gentle fibers of a color brush. The systematic creation of this alternate appearance, this more attractive version, brought calm. It functioned as contemplation, a method to construct a fresh individual from nothing, someone free of fury or forcefulness. Josh, my mother appeared to detect this change, and Julie's collection of garments started to grow. Carrier bags would materialize on my bed after her workday. A lengthy, flowing blossom-patterned gown. A trim gray narrow skirt that required shorter strides and upright seating. A set of form-fitting female slim trousers that clung to every contour of my limbs. Gentle, lightweight knit tops and fine shirts crafted from smooth silk and airy fabric. Each fresh ensemble introduced new physical guidelines and textures. The flowing gown offered wonderful liberty and grace, swirling near my ankles during movement. The narrow skirt felt binding and proper, heightening my awareness of carriage. The slim trousers provided greater ease than skirts yet revealed everything, tracing my hips and legs in ways my former loose pants never did. I even developed preferences. "This shade appears too vivid, Mom," I remarked one evening, lifting a bright rosy shirt she had purchased. "It drains my coloring." On another occasion, browsing a digital selection with her for another garment, I caught myself indicating the display. "I prefer that one," I noted. "The deep blue version. It appears more refined." My mother would simply offer a smile, a perceptive, layered expression. She never voiced I knew it, but the implication lingered. I was growing engaged with Julie's presentation and sense of self. The critical instant arrived deep one evening, roughly 3 weeks into my term. I had completed assignments as Julie, seated at my table in cozy soft sleep shorts and a basic top. Bedtime approached, and I had already cleared my cosmetics. On impulse, I approached my storage. It now divided neatly. Left side held the dwindling, forlorn pieces of Josh's collection. Right side displayed the lively, expanding array for Julie. I selected an aged shirt, one of my preferred ones. It featured a dark music group print, worn and comfortable from extended use. I pulled it on. The material felt coarse on my skin, now used to gentler textures. The sizing felt off. It draped loosely like a bag, formless and undefined, carrying a faint odor of past perspiration and distant recollections. It resembled a disguise, a falsehood. I removed it instantly and, without reflection, reached to the right section. I drew forth a plain cream-hued soft knit top. As I drew it over, it settled ideally. The material felt exceptionally gentle. The fit hugged comfortably without constriction, and it carried the floral-scented rinse my mother applied to all Julie items. I examined my image in the glass. I wore a girl's knit top and girl's sleeve bottoms, and it felt appropriate. It felt more appropriate than the old music shirt ever had. "What am I doing?" I whispered toward the reflection. But the figure gazing back offered no reply. That night, rest proved impossible once more, yet for another cause. Dread no longer filled me. Instead, I experienced deep and alarming uncertainty. I reflected on the neighborhood stroll, the terror and embarrassment of being observed. But below the fear lay another sensation I had resisted acknowledging, a feeling of liberation. As Josh, I constantly performed. I needed to appear strong, vocal, and commanding. I needed to guide my group of companions in mocking and jesting. It drained me. Any hint of softness or emotion faced immediate attack. Josh could not show fragility. Josh could not stay silent. Josh needed to embody dominance, or at least pretend. But as Julie faced none of those demands. Julie could show gentleness. Julie could display shyness. Julie could confess fear. I recalled Madison's tearful inquiry to the administrator, which he had passed to my mom. Why must he act so harshly? The question resonated within me. Was I harsh because of my true nature? Or was I harsh because I believed that defined Josh? Julie was not harsh. Julie simply existed as a person. A person who sensed the discomfort of an outsider's look, who valued the comfort of a knit top, who discovered tranquil peace in the precise process of cosmetics. And with a growing awareness of astonishment that felt both disloyal and enlightening, I started questioning whether perhaps, just perhaps, Julie represented more truth than Josh had ever achieved. It was a weekend afternoon, around a month into this transformed existence, when my mother delivered the subsequent surprise. I wore Julie's attire, naturally. It remained the requirement for non-school days, morning through evening. "Jilly, we've run out of milk. We must visit the store," she called from the cooking area. I nodded, thinking she planned to go alone. "All right. Shall I prepare a note?" "No," she answered, entering the sitting area where I read. "We are heading to the market together, the supermarket, where many individuals will be present." She paused dramatically. My blood turned icy.
"What?"
"Mom?"
"No."
"A stroll on our peaceful street is manageable, but the grocery on a busy weekend. That's no." The neighborhood walks had grown tolerable, nearly ordinary. I recognized which residents would nod kindly and which homes to bypass. The supermarket represented an entirely different arena, unpredictable and filled with crowds. "This belongs to the instruction, Julie," she stated firmly, allowing no disagreement. "You must participate in society, not merely our road." Resigned, I retreated to my space to ready myself. I selected my ensemble thoughtfully. Like a fighter choosing protection, I chose what I hoped would blend in: dark wash slim trousers, a plain white shirt, and flat feminine walking shoes. I devoted additional effort to my cosmetics, aiming for an authentic, perfect appearance that might render me unnoticed. When I checked the mirror, I observed an ordinary-looking young woman. Yet internally, my heart thundered, a wild rhythm of sheer dread. The supermarket matched my worst expectations. Harsh overhead lighting placed me in focus. The pathways overflowed with weekend buyers, a disorderly ocean of unknowns. I remained near my mother, attempting to shield behind the cart, but she seemed intent on maximizing difficulty, advancing briskly, and leaving me to maneuver the masses independently. The glances began promptly. A man in middle age near the vegetables offered a prolonged, leisurely smile that felt anything but welcoming. It seemed intrusive, and I promptly lowered my eyes to a stack of green fruits, pretending deep fascination with their condition. In the chilled section, a lady with a wheeled carrier assessed me, her attention pausing on my features a moment longer, a trace of puzzlement crossing her face. Yet not every notice felt unpleasant. While queued for payment, the youthful woman at the counter beamed at me. "I adore your shirt," she said cheerfully. "And your complexion is wonderful. Which base product do you apply?" Surprise left me nearly speechless. "Oh, thank you. It's my mom's." It marked the initial occasion someone besides my mother had praised me in this role. It created a peculiar and layered emotion, a blend of awkwardness and a subtle, forbidden spark of satisfaction. I sensed warmth in my cheeks, not solely from discomfort. The genuine challenge arrived post-payment. My mother dispatched me outdoors to wait near the entry, while she returned briefly for a forgotten item. I stood by the sliding doors, striving to appear minimal and ordinary, my focus glued to my device screen. That was when the whistle sounded. "Well, hello there." I avoided looking upward. I recognized that manner. It mirrored the one I once used with my group. "Hey, I'm addressing you," the voice insisted. "Come closer now." I raised my eyes and my spirit sank. 3 young men, likely university-aged, had halted before me. They blocked my route, smiling broadly. "Waiting for somebody?" the central one inquired. "We could offer transport." I merely shook my head. My throat felt parched. I tried shifting aside to escape, but they adjusted, surrounding me. Their stares burned intense and hunting. They viewed me not as a person. They examined my shoes, my legs in the snug trousers, their eyes pausing on my upper body before reaching my face. I felt like an insect examined closely, a cut of flesh under review. Helplessness felt complete. What's wrong? Lost your voice. Another mocked. Perhaps she prefers girls. The third chuckled, and the others joined. Moisture threatened at my eye corners. I pressed my lip firmly, fighting to contain it. A raw, choking anxiety swelled inside. This exceeded street whistles. This carried threat. Just as one advanced nearer, my mother materialized, her face stormy. "Julie, let's depart." Her tone cut like frost. She directed a devastating glare at the young men, causing them to recoil. "Whoa, relax," one muttered, lifting palms in pretended yield. "We meant no harm." They strode off, chuckling together, abandoning me quivering. The drive home passed without words. I gazed through the window, tears tracing paths down my cheeks, blurring the cosmetics I had applied so diligently. My mother stayed silent. She simply extended her hand and rested it over mine. Upon arriving, I did not delay. I dashed from the vehicle directly to my room and shut the door firmly. I confronted my reflection, the tear-marked features, the blurred liner, the alarmed eyes of a girl named Julie. A deep, raw cry broke from my throat, a sound of absolute torment and rage. Yet the rage targeted not my mother. It aimed at myself, at Josh. "This is what you caused," I shouted at my image. "This is what you inflicted on Madison. This is the sensation." I collapsed to the floor, my entire form trembling with weeping. I finally comprehended. It transcended the garments or the cosmetics. It concerned this sensation of entrapment, of pursuit, of reduction to an object for another's entertainment or want. It represented the deepest and most agonizing understanding I had ever encountered. After the emotional outburst subsided, an unusual tranquility enveloped me. I rose and systematically cleared the damaged cosmetics, my hands now steady. Then I moved to my storage, to the left section. I retrieved a pair of Josh's age-torn pants and a dark shirt. I needed to experience them once more. I shed Julie's slim trousers and shirt and donned the old items. And the feeling was incorrect. Completely, essentially incorrect. The thick cloth felt rigid and irritating. The shirt hung shapeless and weighty. These garments no longer served as protection. They resembled a disguise, a poor, mismatched covering for someone I no longer embodied. I checked the mirror and saw a youth with smooth skin and troubled eyes. A youth pretending in his abandoned existence. It was not merely the garments that fell off. The individual they symbolized fell off. Josh fell off. Josh was the covering. Josh was the deception. In that instant, positioned in my room between two collections and two life paths, I knew with absolute conviction, both frightening and freeing, that return was impossible. The consequence had not achieved its intended goal. Yet it had accomplished something neither my mother nor I could have foreseen. It had stripped away the coverings of who I was expected to become and uncovered who I truly was. Her name was Julie. The subsequent day, I sat at my table with an empty sheet and writing tool. The market incident had crystallized something within me, something that had simmered for weeks. I could not reverse my actions as Josh, but I needed to attempt amends. I needed to express regret to Madison. But how could I convey this bizarre, complicated path? I began composing, then discarded the sheet and restarted. I repeated this 3 additional times. Finally, I concluded that complete, terrifying honesty offered the sole path. "Dear Madison, this will sound unusual, but this message comes from Josh, or who formerly was Josh. My name is now Julie. I realize this seems confusing. Please allow me to clarify. For my behavior toward you, my mom devised a consequence. She required me to exist as a girl. I had to wear dresses, apply cosmetics, and answer to Julie. At the start, I viewed it as the most insane, degrading experience imaginable. I despised every part. But now I comprehend. I genuinely, fully comprehend. I have sensed the looks. I have heard the remarks. I have been surrounded by guys who viewed me as an object, not a person. I have felt insignificant, frightened, and powerless in a manner I never imagined possible. I am profoundly sorry. That is the primary reason for this letter. I apologize sincerely from my deepest core for the suffering I caused you. I acted as a harsh, conceited fool. And I grasp now the extent of the hurt I inflicted. I finally understand the dread you must have endured. If you are open, I would like to meet. Not as Josh. I would like you to encounter Julie. With deepest regret, Julie. My hand trembled as I folded the message and placed it in a cover. The next day at school as Josh, I secretly deposited it in her storage, my heart racing throughout. 3 painful days followed. I felt certain she had discarded it or mocked it with companions. Then, on Wednesday evening, my device vibrated with a message from an unfamiliar contact. Central Park, the seat near the water. Saturday at 3 p.m. I need to grasp what is happening. It came from Madison. My breath caught. My mother, nearby, noticed my expression. It is from her, correct? She inquired kindly. I nodded. Will you attend? I am terrified. I confessed, my voice faint. My mom rested her hand on my shoulder. You have demonstrated such bravery throughout this, dear. You face only one final step. On Saturday, I selected my ensemble with greater attention than ever. I aimed for welcoming and kind. I chose a simple beige mid-length skirt, a gentle white layered top, and flat shoes. I applied cosmetics for a natural effect and secured my hair in a basic partial style. As I waited on the park seat, my heart threatened to escape my chest. Then I spotted her approaching. She wore pants and a shirt, a bag, over one shoulder. She appeared as the familiar Madison from school. But as she neared and saw me, her eyes expanded in astonishment. She paused several feet distant. Josh, she exhaled, her voice heavy with disbelief. It is Julie now, I said quietly, my voice quivering slightly. She paused a long while, then gradually approached and sat at the opposite end of the seat, maintaining space. The quiet felt dense with strain. At last, I began speaking. I shared everything. I described my mother's requirement, the initial dress experience, the humiliating yet illuminating process of learning cosmetics. I recounted the neighborhood walks. And my voice faltered as I detailed the market encounter, the sensation of being trapped by those men. That was when I understood. I concluded, moisture gathering in my eyes again. That was when I realized what Josh subjected you to daily, from me, from my companions. And I am so sorry, Madison. She stayed silent for an extended time, simply observing me, her face hard to read. I prepared for fury, for mockery, for her departure. I do not know how to respond, she said eventually, her tone gentle. Part of me remains upset with you, with Josh. But hearing you now, I see you speak truthfully. You actually understand. I nodded, unable to speak around the tightness in my throat. I do not expect forgiveness. I simply needed you to know I comprehend now. Madison inhaled deeply, gazing across the water. Julie, she tested the name. You know, it actually fits you. I looked at her, startled. What do you mean? I cannot explain fully, she replied, facing me again. It is simply your posture, your manner of speaking now. It seems more authentic. Josh always exerted effort. You know, always posing, striving to appear strong and dominant. But Julie seems permitted to show softness. Her words struck like electricity. Permitted to show softness. That captured the essence of everything. Julie avoided the impossible, harmful expectations of manhood that had confined Josh. Julie could weep. Julie could feel fear. Julie could seek assistance. And that did not signify weakness. It meant being human. Thank you, I whispered, and the words felt insufficient for the enormous clarity she had provided. For what? For helping me recognize that. A small, cautious smile appeared on Madison's lips for the first time. So, she said, do you believe we could begin anew as friends? Tears of release and joy flowed down my face as I nodded eagerly. I would like that more than anything. We remained on that seat for another hour, simply conversing. And for the first time, I performed no role. I was neither Josh the aggressor, nor Julie the consequence. I was simply myself, speaking with a new companion, and it felt like returning home. That evening, my mother and I sat facing each other at the meal table. The mood felt lighter than it had in months. "You have absorbed the instruction, Julie," she said softly, filled with quiet pride. "I believe we can declare the consequence finished. You need not continue as Julie if you prefer otherwise." I stayed quiet for a long moment. I glanced at the deep blue garment I wore, one of my preferred ones. Then I looked at my reflection in the darkened dining window, at the gentle face of the girl with precisely applied cosmetics. "I do not want it to conclude, Mom," I said, the words rushing out quietly. She placed her utensil down, focusing entirely on me. "What did you say?" "I do not believe Julie was ever the consequence," I explained, my voice strengthening with certainty. "I think she was the individual I was always meant to become. When I existed as Josh, I felt confined. I had to pretend to be this loud, forceful, controlling guy constantly. It exhausted me and turned me harsh. But when I am Julie, I simply get to exist as myself." My mother's eyes brimmed with moisture. She rose, circled the table, and embraced me firmly. "Oh, dear, do you realize what this involves? It will not be a simple path." "I know," I whispered against her shoulder. But living as Josh, living falsely, that was far more difficult. The following weekend, we sorted my storage. It became a purification, a farewell to a history that no longer suited. Every remaining piece of Josh's attire went into large dark disposal sacks. The torn pants, the loose sweatshirts, the bulky oversized footwear. I held each article briefly, offering a silent parting to the youth who had worn them. I felt no sorrow, only liberation. He was not me. He was a covering I had hidden within for 17 years. "Any second thoughts?" my mother asked as I folded the final dark sweatshirt, the one that had served as my informal standard. I shook my head. "No." My sole regret is that it required so much time to realize. We transported the sacks to a nearby donation site en route back. My mother did not turn toward home. Instead, she entered the parking area of the large retail center at the shopping complex. "All right," she said, shutting off the motor and offering a radiant smile. "Now we shop genuinely. Not for a consequence, but for my daughter's fresh beginning." That afternoon ranked among the happiest of my life. For the first time, I did not merely wear items selected for me. I constructed a collection that truly reflected me. We devoted hours testing ensembles. I discovered my affection for the easy grace of flowing gowns for warm weather. I located slim trousers that conformed perfectly and shirts that made me feel attractive and composed. I even chose a sharp charcoal women's formal outfit. "What purpose could that serve?" my mother inquired with laughter. "I have no idea," I admitted, admiring my image. "But I love the feeling it creates, strong, yet entirely different from anything Josh experienced." I selected fresh intimate wear, choosing designs and hues I genuinely preferred. We acquired supportive garments that created a more natural feminine outline. Each purchase felt like another foundation stone for my new self. The peak occurred when I tried a striking deep crimson formal gown. It conformed ideally, embracing my middle before expanding in a way that made me wish to spin. As I stood before the multi-angle mirror, my mother approached from behind, her voice thick with feeling. "You are so lovely, Julie. Are you crying, Mom?" I asked, meeting her moist eyes in the reflection. "I am not," she said, brushing away a tear. "I did not lose a son today. I feel like I have finally met my child for the first time." The major choice still awaited: school. I could not sustain dual existences. I needed to return as Julie. The idea terrified me, yet returning as Josh had become unthinkable. My first contact was with Madison. She proved wonderful, providing instant and firm backing. "You require supporters," she said. "Allow me to connect you with my friends. We will stand with you." She arranged a small gathering at my home that Friday. I encountered Emma, Rachel, and Sophia. They reacted with initial surprise, naturally. But once Madison detailed my path, their welcome felt warm and sincere. "You know," Emma remarked, a girl with a crisp, fashionable cut, "I always sensed Josh appeared uneasy in his own body. This explains everything." You definitely seem happier. Rachel concurred with a kind expression. Sophia, who was warm and lively, simply grasped my hand. Welcome to the girl group, she said with a smile. They devoted the rest of the evening to rapid guidance on school survival, cosmetics advice for harsh lighting, strategies for handling rumors, and most importantly, the assurance I would not confront it solo. People will discuss, Sophia stated seriously. But what matters as long as you know your truth? The ultimate stage involved formalizing it. My mother and I met with the administrator, Ms. Morrison. She acted professional, understanding, and helpful. This represents a major change, Julie, she said, adopting my new name effortlessly. Our institution supports all students in their paths of self-understanding. We will update your information and notify your instructors of your name and pronoun adjustment. She additionally provided access to the school advisor, which I accepted gratefully. The night preceding my initial day as Julie at school, sleep evaded me. I lay awake examining the ensemble I had arranged on my seat: navy slim trousers, a lovely white shirt with gentle puff sleeves, and a soft cream-layered top. It appeared simple, graceful, and authentic. I rose and approached the mirror, studying my clean face and disordered hair. Can I truly accomplish this? I whispered to my reflection. Fear formed a cold weight in my stomach. But then I recalled the sensation of Josh's old garments, the feeling of imprisonment, and I considered the sensation of being Julie. The lightness, the liberty, the truth. Yes, I answer myself, my voice resolute. You can. I returned to bed, not with fear, but with a nervous, exhilarating anticipation for the first time in my 17 years. I was about to enter school without pretending. I was about to enter as myself. The alarm sounded at 6, but I had already awakened. No delaying today. I rose with determination I had never known. The morning process now felt like a soothing ceremony. I bathed, attended to my skin carefully, and methodically removed hair from my legs and face, creating a smooth base. Dressing became an intentional process. The neutral lace undergarments, the close fit of the navy trousers, the gentle touch of the white shirt against my skin. I added the cream-layered top, a comforting layer of warmth and protection. For my feet, I chose simple black slip-on flats, avoiding even slight elevation for ease and steadiness. Then the cosmetics. It no longer involved forming a disguise. It involved enhancing the person I now recognized in the mirror. An even coating of base, a gentle application of brown shades, a precise thin black liner, a careful layer of thickening agent, and a smooth application of my preferred natural pink lip color. When finished, I examined my reflection. It showed simply a teenage girl prepared for classes, a fairly typical girl. I smiled. Okay, Julie, I said to her. Let's proceed. My mom waited near the main entrance, her eyes shining with moisture. I am so proud of you, she whispered, drawing me into an embrace. When we arrived at the school, a new surge of anxiety hit. Students moved about, laughing and calling, living ordinary lives. I felt like an outsider emerging from another world. I drew a deep, unsteady breath and exited the vehicle. Heads turned. Discussions paused. I sensed the stares like countless small pricks on my skin. I noticed people squinting, then nudging companions, murmuring secretly, "Is that Josh?"
No way.
He's in girl clothes. Wow, he looks so changed. I kept my head elevated, my eyes aimed at the entrance, even as my hands shook so much I clenched them at my sides. I reached my storage and struggled with the lock. My fingers suddenly felt awkward.
Sure.
Is it Julie now? The voice came from nearby. It was Tyler, one of the guys from my former group. His tone lacked hostility, just honest confusion. Julie, I answered, my voice emerging quieter than planned, yet steady. Okay, he said, nodding gradually.
Huh.
Well, good for you, I suppose. He gave me a complex look and departed. It was not full acceptance, but neither was it dismissal. I accepted it. At that moment, my support arrived. Madison, Emma, Rachel, and Sophia appeared beside me as if summoned. Ready, Madison asked, her smile a guiding light. No, I admitted truthfully. But I must be. We stand with you completely, Sophia said, linking her arm with mine. Entering my first session literature class resembled stepping onto a platform. The instant I crossed the doorway, the whole space quieted. My instructor, Ms. Miller, already notified, continued smoothly. Good morning, Julie, she said warmly, as though perfectly ordinary. You may take your regular place. I nodded gratefully and walked to my desk, feeling every gaze follow. I heard whispers resuming behind me. He actually looks quite nice. I still don't understand. Be quiet. She hears you. Ms. Miller started the session on Harper Lee's work. Today's focus, she announced, is bravery. What does genuine courage involve? She surveyed the room. Courage is not lacking fear. It is proceeding despite fear. Her eyes settled on me. Julie, would you share your perspective? The entire group turned toward me. My throat felt dry. I started, my voice soft yet distinct. Courage means being willing to live as your true self, even when you know difficulty awaits, even when you fear others' opinions. The room stayed completely silent for a moment, then I observed several students nodding in recognition. Ms. Miller offered a small approving smile. The greatest challenge of the day was midday meal. The dining hall formed a social danger zone, a loud, turbulent environment where vulnerability faced attack. As I stood with my tray, my eyes instinctively moved to my former table where Josh's companions laughed and jostled. Jake, now the informal head of the group, caught my gaze. He said nothing. He simply stared, his face mixing revulsion and scorn that chilled me. I quickly looked elsewhere, my hunger disappearing. Just as I considered fleeing, I heard my new name called. Julie, over here. It was Madison waving toward her table. I walked over and joined her and the others. They promptly drew me into their discussion, forming a protective ring around me. For the first time that day, I could breathe. I was neither Josh the outsider, nor Julie the display. I was simply one of the girls sharing a meal with companions, and it felt correct. The initial surprise at school faded after several days, replaced by something harsher. Jake and his group, the boys I once claimed as my own, dedicated themselves to making my existence miserable. The delicate shell of welcome I felt at lunch on day one shattered quickly. The harassment continued relentlessly and subtly. In the corridors, Jake would intentionally collide with me forcefully. "Oh, pardon me, miss," he would say, his voice laced with mocking poison. His companions would chuckle behind. They avoided doing so under teacher observation. Of course, they lacked courage. The labels they applied felt like small toxic arrows. Freak. Weirdo. The terms lingered in my mind long afterward, eroding my emerging confidence. Your family must feel so proud. One sneered as I passed the changing area. That struck deepest. I would arrive home daily near tears, rushing to my room to weep privately. My mother would tap softly. "Are you all right, dear?"
"No, Mom."
"I am not," I sobbed one afternoon. "I do not know if I can continue. It is too difficult." She entered and sat on the bed, gently stroking my hair. "I know it is," she said softly, "but you have already completed the toughest portion, being truthful with yourself. This tests your resilience." "But why must it be like this?" I cried. "Because you challenge how they believe the world should function," she replied wisely. "And people fear what they cannot grasp. Do not allow their fear to darken your spirit." That night, Madison phoned. "I can tell from your voice you faced hardship today," she said. "Want a visit? The group is here. We can view a silly film and enjoy snacks." I agreed, unwilling to remain isolated with my distress. At Madison's home, seated on her bedroom floor with Emma, Rachel, and Sophia, I admitted the difficulty. "I know the feeling," Madison said seriously. "Recall last year when those stories circulated about me? You all participated." A wave of embarrassment flooded me. "I know," I said quietly. "I was among them." "Josh was," she corrected kindly. "Julie is not. You have transformed, and that counts." But they still view me as some sort of entertainment, I lamented. Give them time, Rachel suggested. The foolish ones stay foolish, but those who matter, the ones worth knowing, they will adjust. We spent the remaining time painting nails, discussing assignments, and enjoying a light-hearted love story. For the first time, I experienced the deep comfort of feminine companionship. It avoided competition or superiority, like Josh's circle. It centered on backing, understanding, and total acceptance. I was not alone. The shift occurred a week afterward. During physical education, I wore the girls' uniform, black leg coverings, and a school shirt, and felt extremely self-aware and exposed. We played netball, and Jake opposed my side. He clearly aimed at me, striking the ball toward me aggressively whenever possible. One serve came with such power that I could not respond in time. It struck me directly in the chest, and I staggered backward, losing balance and falling heavily onto the smooth floor. The signal sounded. "Jake, that earns a caution," the instructor called. But as I sat there, dazed and sore, something remarkable unfolded. Tyler, my former companion who had stayed distant since my change, approached from my team's side. He extended his hand. "You all right?" he asked quietly. "Yeah, I believe so," I mumbled, accepting the help to stand. "Listen, Julie," he continued, still supporting my arm. "I will not claim full understanding of your situation, but you remain you, and Jake acts like a complete fool." That midday meal, Tyler joined our table. The dining area hummed with murmurs. By supporting me, he took a position. His subtle act of resistance created waves through the school's social order. Gradually, cautiously, others began viewing me not as odd, but as another student. The balance started shifting. Several weeks later, in literature class, Ms. Miller assigned a reflective composition. Describe an act of bravery you observed or carried out. I knew my subject instantly. I detailed my path. I wrote about the transition from Josh to Julie, omitting nothing. I covered the consequence, the terror, the embarrassment, the uncertainty, and ultimately the deep freedom of self-acceptance. It was the most truthful piece I had ever produced. When I received the paper back, no score appeared. Instead, a single line in Ms. Miller's graceful writing sat at the bottom. "This is the finest and bravest thing you have ever written. Julie, A+. 3 months went by. Leaves dropped, and winter cold settled. At school, I achieved balance. I no longer dominated conversations. Though some students maintained distance, I possessed a strong, wonderful circle of friends who supported me unconditionally. I had even joined the school creative club, rediscovering a love for sketching I had ignored since childhood. My artwork became my release, a means to process the emotional storm. I sketched and colored my experience, exploring ideas of change, identity, and liberty. My main work was a large surface, a self-image divided centrally. Left side showed Josh in dark, severe tones, his face furious and restricted. Right side presented Julie in soft, vivid hues, her expression calm and open. Ms. Miller, also the Creative Club guide, viewed the piece and encouraged submission to the yearly student display. "Your creation carries a strong message, Julie," she said. "It is a narrative that deserves sharing." On the opening evening of the display, nerves and anticipation filled me. I wore a lovely deep blue formal gown my mom had purchased for the event. It appeared sophisticated and grown, and for the first time I added low lifts. I applied cosmetics with special attention, a dramatic eye look and striking red lip. My hair, now longer, fell in gentle waves across my shoulders. Standing beside my artwork in the busy school hall, my heart fluttered. Community members, students, families, staff moved through, appreciating the creations. My mother stood with me, her hand clasped firmly in mine. "You look stunning, honey, and your artwork is remarkable." A woman I recognized as another student's parent paused before my piece. "This concerns self-understanding, doesn't it?" she asked kindly. I nodded. "Yes, it is about discovering your true self after pretending for so long to be someone else." My friends all attended in support. Madison, Emma, Rachel, Sophia, and even Tyler formed a proud protective group. Principal Morrison made a point to approach. Julie, you have displayed remarkable bravery in sharing your story. You inspire many students here, she told me, her words bringing warmth unrelated to the crowded space. From across the hall, I noticed Jake. He stood apart, examining my artwork. He shifted his gaze from the canvas to me, his face hard to interpret. He said nothing, but in his eyes I believed I detected not scorn, but something different. Perhaps, just perhaps, a hint of regard. When we returned home that night, tired yet joyful, my mother stopped me before my room. I have a present for you. On my bed rested a large, elegantly packaged container. I opened it carefully. Inside, wrapped in white layers, lay a garment. It was a lengthy classic-style gown of detailed white trim with extended sleeves and a tall neck. It was the loveliest item I had ever seen. It is beautiful, Mom, I breathed. It was my graduation gown from high school, she said softly. I kept it, and now I want you to have it. I wrapped my arms around her neck. Thank you. Thank you for everything. You rescued me, Mom. She held me closely. No, sweetie. You rescued yourself. I simply guided you correctly. Later, I slipped on the white gown. It fit perfectly. I stood before the tall mirror, viewing my reflection. No sign of Josh, the furious, confused youth, remained. In his place stood Julie, a self-assured, lovely, and tranquil young woman. My mother appeared in the doorway, her eyes bright. You know, Mom, I said, turning toward her. At the start of this, I believed you were penalizing me, but now I understand you were not. You were liberating me. She smiled through tears. You were always Julie. Josh was merely the protection you wore. I have no regrets, I said, my voice clear and sure. I regret the actions Josh took, the hurt he inflicted, but I will never regret becoming Julie. I did not lose a son, my mom said, repeating words from our earlier shopping trip. I completed the thought. You finally met your daughter. We embraced again, surrounded by the gentle, warm glow from my bedside light. I looked beyond her, through my window at the broad, dark world outside. It still held difficulties. I knew that, but for the first time in my life, I felt no fear. The consequence had transformed into my deliverance. Josh had departed, and Julie had finally arrived home.